In this video, I'm going to be showing you the basics of laying vinyl plank flooring. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be laying some vinyl plank flooring in this little entryway area as well as in this closet, and it will all be connected. The fact that this is a small area will allow me to show you a lot of the basic techniques to laying the vinyl plank flooring. This flooring is 7 inches wide and is waterproof, and this particular flooring came from Lowe's, but you can get it at a lot of home improvement stores. The planks vary in width. Some of them are waterproof, some of them are not, so you just got to pay attention to that. This particular flooring has a padding already installed on the back of it. Depending on if you're laying this flooring in a basement or something like that, you may need to put a vapor barrier down. With this application, we're just going to be able to lay plank flooring with the pad already attached to it. So this area already has some linoleum laid down, but it's damaged here in the corner, and it is not glued down very well, which is good for us because I think we're going to go ahead and remove it. If your linoleum was really secured to the floor, you could technically leave it, but we're going to tear this up real quick so that we're starting from scratch. Vinyl plank and laminate flooring is what they call a floating floor. It means it's not attached on the edges so that it can expand and contract based on the climate and things like that that can affect the humidity and whatnot. We're going to be running our floor right up to the edge with about a 1/4 inch gap all the way around. This house was just recently painted, so we're not going to be removing the baseboard so that we don't have to worry about paint lines. So once we lay the floor, we're going to come in with some 1/4 round and cover up all the gaps that we have around the side. So first thing is we got to get this flooring up. We're also going to remove this door because we don't want any obstacles in our way. This situation will be perfect to show you how to bring flooring up to a carpet edge. This carpet was just recently laid. It's laid over top of this linoleum, so we want our floor to come right up to the edge of this to make a nice transition without having to secure it down here. So I'll show you how to do that as well. One thing you'll want is a good pair of knee pads, because being down on a hard surface all the time is really hard on your knees. I'm gonna make some cuts in the floor so I can find a good spot to get under it. Not all your flooring is going to come up this easy, but whatever glue they used didn't do a very good job, to be honest. Some of it's stuck under our trim, but we can just take a knife and just cut right along the edge of our trim because we don't have to go under it right now. We just need a nice flat surface to lay our new planking on. You definitely want a razor scraper like this. This thing is invaluable for scraping up stuff that's stuck to the floor and getting some of this linoleum released. Sometimes you can use your razor scraper to kind of pry some of that linoleum out from underneath the trim. All right, so this linoleum is trapped underneath some of this carpet edging, whatever they use to keep this rolled under like this. So we want to try to get as much of this out as we can so that it's not obstructing our new vinyl plank. Sometimes you can pull it out with like a pliers or needle nose here. Come out from underneath the trim a little bit better, but whatever doesn't, you just cut it off. Okay, now on this part, I try to get a hold of the floor and pull what I can out. It'll pull it out from underneath whatever that strip is that's holding it, so I can have as much of it out as I can, because I want to use this area under here to hold my flooring down. So I'm trying to get all this out without pulling my carpet apart. I got to be careful what I'm grabbing a hold of. It's some kind of an aluminum strip there, so I can kind of bend it up and give me some more room. I think I'm just going to cut some of that because I got plenty of room. I only need to go under a little ways. I just need to have a lip that I can get in under that will hold the vinyl plank in. So I'm just going to go along here and kind of bend this strip up a little bit so I have some room to get in there with a knife or my pliers and get that linoleum out of there. You'll see what we do with this here in a little while, and we'll put this carpet back down when we're done. Okay, we have most of the flooring cut back as far as we can get it. Got a couple little nails in here where it must have had some trim at one point. So we're gonna yank those out. All right, we got our surface all clean and prepped, and we're ready to start laying out our plan for this floor. A couple things to think about when you're starting. My planks are 7 inches wide. I'm gonna start over here by the door, and what I don't want is a little sliver left here. So we're gonna get a measurement here and see how much distance we have. And it looks like about 81 inches. So what we wanna do is divide that by 7 and find out how many planks we're gonna have. Okay, so we have 81 divided by 7, which leaves us, we have 11 full planks and a 4-inch plank left at the end, which is fine. That's plenty wide. The only thing we might wanna consider is, do we want our short plank here, or do we want a short plank there? And I'm gonna lay my planks this direction, and the reason why is because I don't want all these arbitrary planks this way that I have to make sure all fit underneath here. And you're gonna see it's a lot easier to get them lengthways under there than it would be to get them this way and get them clipped together. The trim is up high enough on this end here that I think we're gonna be able to slide our pieces right under, so we'll be able to just start with a full piece. We're gonna have several rows that we're just using a piece and a little bit of another piece. So we don't really wanna alternate back and forth necessarily. We want our seams random. So on the first one, we're gonna start out with a full piece. This trim is just a little bit too low. I can't actually slide that up there, so I'm gonna take my saw and just kiss a little bit of that off so that we can slide up there closer, because we only wanna leave about a 1/4 inch gap. We're gonna take a scrap piece of flooring and use that as our spacer so we know where we need to cut. We're gonna go ahead and cut this side down too while we're at it. Your plank does wear down, so you can't reuse it over and over again, but it's a quick way to do it. Okay, when you lay in vinyl plank, you don't want to go right up against, you wanna leave it out of about a 1/4 inch typically for expansion. And you lay the piece so that there's a exposed lip right here that's larger than, there's just a little tiny lip here. This is the one that goes towards you. This is the one that goes along the wall. And the longer lip on the ends goes to your right. Now there's certain applications where you're going inside a closet or you come to a doorway and you work your way that way, that you'll have to work off of this edge. But this is the standard way you want it. You want this long lip towards you. So these planks, they call them snap together planks, but I have yet to have any luck snapping them together. It's more like beating them together. And they are nice, they're really handy. They make it nice for people to install a vinyl floor instead of like a solid piece of vinyl flooring. But they are a little challenging, especially to get them together and to not have them come back apart when you're installing. These here are little spacers that you can buy. I bought mine in a kit that came with a tool for installing the flooring and the hammer and everything. But these are spacers that you can put in. And the reason you need to use them is because when I put my next piece in and I go to snap it in and I pound on it, it's going to shove this piece underneath my trim or right up against my trim, which is what I don't want. I want some space down here. So you put these spacers in here so that you have a stop gap down here to keep your pieces where you want them while you're assembling them. And you also want to make sure you're square with your wall. Because we don't have a big area here and there's not going to be a lot of expansion, I want to minimize my gap as much as possible. So I'm actually going to put one of these bars in here that you use to install flooring and use it as my spacer so I can get it a little bit closer, because you don't need a huge gap there. And then I have some small pieces from another area that I was doing, and I'm going to use some of these up on this little spot here. An easy way to cut this, you do have to keep oriented to where your side is that goes towards you when you're cutting these, but an easy way to mark these is to flip them over. This is the end I'm going to cut, but I want to save all this, so I flip it around, make my mark here, and then cut it here, and then when I bring it back in and install it, it'll be perfect. It's an easy way to mark them on the ends without having to measure everything. And you have to remember, you don't want it right up against there, so you got to think about where it's going to end up and maybe either pull your piece away where you're going to want it and mark it right on the money, or think about, oh, I got to move in just a little bit so I have some room to snap it in. So put a mark right there, go out and cut it. All right, there's our mark, and we line our blade up, and we want to still see a little bit of that mark when we're done, so I'm lining my left side of my blade up with that mark. I can always cut more off, but I can't add it back. All right, this is what's nice about the beginning is you can move your pieces around to get everything situated. So I'm gonna click this in where it belongs. You can literally just drop it in and then lay it down, and then we can smack it into place with our block. So the most important part right now is making sure that's all square. Before we smack this back in here, we're gonna put these 1/4" spacers so that everything is nice and parallel with the wall. All right, now we're gonna tap it into place. So this is, this little, just one single step is for vinyl, and this is for laminate. All right, and we're just gonna make sure our seam is tight. All right, there we go. First row in. So we got a little space back there. We're underneath our trim. Got spaces at the end. Second row. On the second row, I got this little partial here. And this is my long lip end, which needs to go to my right. This has been cut before, so we can go ahead and set this right in here. And I'm gonna use my bar here for a spacer at this end. Set that in just like that. This piece will be a full piece, but I'll have to cut it a little bit. So this about this much is gonna have to come off, but in order to mark it, I wanna cut it off of that end. So I turn it around, put it up against the wall, and mark my ends here where I wanna cut it. All right, should be able to set it in there. Now, I see a lot of people that try to put their planks together like this. They put this end in first, and then they try to lay that other end in, and then they snap it in like that. I've found that it takes a lot more pressure to smack it in this way than just to smack it down this way. So I put my long side in first all the time, line it up, a little bit of an angle, leave just enough space. This has got to go past the surface here. So you got to have enough space like that. And then I take my tool at this end, smack it together. And once I get the end in, then I come back with this and I smack it in this way. Make sure all my seams are tight that way. And a little trick, you can do this by yourself, but it really helps to have somebody stand on your piece down here to make sure, once you get moving, to make sure this lines up right here, because if that isn't down flush with the other side, it'll break it. So we have a seam there, and if we go back to a full piece here, we're gonna have a little seam right there again with my short pieces. So we're gonna cut a piece that puts us about right here towards the middle. So we're going to measure out, and we wanna cut this end because this is gonna be up against the side. So we're going to measure from this end. So we flip it over and we take a measurement. Let's see, let's go about right here. Put our bar in here so we don't forget, and that fits right in. When you just put one piece in, it fits together really nice. So now we're gonna get a full piece and measure that. So we want this end saved, so we're gonna turn it around and measure to cut right in here. All right, line our long side up. If you push it in good enough, it'll actually lay down pretty nice. There we go. Okay, I think we do a full piece because our first seam is on the first row and we're 3 rows down, so the 4th row we'll go back to a full piece, then a small piece. All right, you see how this is kind of sticking up in the air? It's because it's not locked in that direction, so if we just tap it a little bit, it should settle that down just a little bit. It won't be sticking up. There, now it lays flush. So we're gonna use this partial here, so we turn it around. I saw this tip online somewhere on YouTube. Somebody used dry erase markers. This one is a wet erase marker because it marks a little bit better, but this makes it easy to come back and clean up any marks that are showing up. This doesn't gonna matter because it'll be underneath trim, but when we get to cutting these profiles out, it'll be nice to have this marker. And it shows up a little bit better on the pieces. So a lot of people, I'm sure, have an opinion on how to do this. We're coming to the door. Our piece is gonna run about right there, outside of this tape measure. So there's a lot of different options. You could have your seam inside the door jamb area, which would be okay. You're only gonna have a little bit of a width there to continue locking onto your other pieces. The way I have this partial laid here, this piece is gonna come about right to there. Another option could be, you could do this. So you have your piece hugging the wall. So I think I'm gonna go with what I have right here. It's gonna come to about the edge of that door jamb on the inside, and I think that'll work out just fine. All right, so I'm gonna show you how I mark this up to make it fit around this door. I get the piece set about where it's gonna be once it's locked in. And then I take a straight edge and stay parallel with my wall and mark where my profile changes are gonna be. And I don't try to keep this exact profile of this trim. It doesn't matter because I'm gonna have to probably caulk along there anyway, and it will just be a lot cleaner to deal with. So I'm gonna mark my profile changes where they happen. This will all make sense maybe here in a little bit. So that's my profile from that direction. And what I'll do is I'll take measurements from where the other plank ends up to where these profiles are going to start. So like I measure from right there to where that first profile change is. So it's about 3/4 of an inch. And then this is the next one. I can use a straight edge to kind of help me see those changes, where they're at. So I'm gonna go 2 5/8. 2 5/8, 2 3/4, about 3 1/8. Same on the other end. And then it gets a little harder on the other side, but these should repeat. So this should be 2 3/4, and then 2 5/8. Now if I square all these up, I should have a pretty good pattern here where things go. We're gonna draw some lines here, show you what it looks like. And this just gets us close. This profile here is my angle, and that goes across like that. So something like that. We're gonna cut all this out, and we should be pretty darn close. Okay, it's looking really good. It's a little tight there. I'm gonna have to take probably just a little bit off of that. Everything else looks really good though, except for that little mistake I made there, but that'll be caulked. I really like to use a table saw for this, and it undercuts it all right here, which is fine. You'll never see that. It makes it pretty quick to make these profiles. Let's see if we can get this in place. Now sometimes you can kind of bend the vinyl to get it into where it should be. Kind of cheat it while you're trying to line everything up. Give you some more room. So I think if I snap that in, it'll be pretty much perfect. I just broke it. Ugh! So this is almost perfect, this profile. I left a little piece on here, not critical. This might snap off. It's gonna probably be underneath the trim anyway. I could actually cut a little bit off of that end and got rid of this because it would have slid the piece this way, but this is what it is. All right, now we're gonna bring it down a little bit, hopefully. So that's what we're left with. We'll just caulk that right there, and we'll use some of this on our next piece. So that little bit of trim there is stopping me from locking it where I need to, so I'm gonna just shave that off a little bit. I'm just gonna use the utility knife actually. This is in a closet, and it's not even gonna be very visible. Cut some of that off of there. I think that did it. See, you got a little gap there? That's because that piece is not straight yet. So when we start pounding all that in there, it'll straighten all that up. We got a spacer in there. Perfect. Okay, we have another profile to cut in. This piece is going to go around the wall. So to start off with, we're going to cut our length so that we have a piece that we can accurately transfer our profile to. So this is the way it's going to go in there. So we flip in for end, slightly short of where it's going to end up, and go cut it. A square is actually the best way to do this. I just don't have one right here right now. Now we got to get our measurements. And our measurements are from the edge of this. So first one is 7. So we always measure from the side that we're going to be butting up against. So the first one is 7, so that's all the way. Next one is this mark right here, and that's 4 7/8. 4 3/4. We should be able just to draw our lines across here. So that's kind of our profile we're going to cut. Let's see how this fits in here. If we're close or we're still a long ways off. We are real close. You want to make sure you don't have crud in your seams. Get some little pieces. Okay, so I think if I flex this a little bit, I'll be able to get it. So we're just a little heavy right there. So I got to kiss a little bit of that off, I think. Okay, let's see what we got now. Put my long side in first. That gave me just a little more room right there. I can get it down and then bring it that way just a little bit. I gotta make sure that stays down even with each other. All right, so that's what it looks like. Not too bad, a little more space there than I would like, but it'll caulk right up. I'm gonna lay a little sliver in there just so my quarter round doesn't come close to not covering that. So we're gonna measurement for length. Okay, that last piece there is 22 3/4 by 1/2 inch. And this piece here was chipped earlier, so we're only gonna use this side anyway, so that works out perfect. So we need a length of 22 3/4. And then we got to rip this down to 1/2 inch. So we're gonna, instead of cutting a 1/2 inch piece wide, we're gonna sliver it off the edge. That's a lot safer. I should leave us enough right there. All right, let's see if we can get this piece in here yet. You gotta kind of get it all locked in at one time. I keep missing this end. And we can't lock it in like everything else. If we can get our tool in there. There we go. There we go. Alright, so we're to the carpet, and we have about a 3.5 inch wide gap yet, which is fine, and it looks really parallel, so that's good too. So we're gonna decide exactly how far we want to go to have it underneath this whatever's holding this carpet down. So I'm gonna cut it about 3 3/4. So I have to push a little bit to get it underneath there so it's nice and snug and doesn't go anywhere. And I'm going to have this end about right in the middle. So I'll have two pieces that are similar length, 58 inches. So 3 3/4 by 29. This is where it gets a little tricky because I want to slide it under here so it stays good and put. But then I also got to make sure I can get it in far enough that it snaps in here. So now we have it down where it should be. Now I just have to get my bar to get a hold of it to snap it in. There we go. One piece in, one to go. When I get it in, then I can kind of tap that back down where the carpet was pulled up. I think it's aluminum. That way it'll pull that carpet back down on there. Hold it down real nice. Look at that. Okay. Now we gotta work it in this way and this way. I'm gonna start by popping it in this way. And then bring it down from this way. We got it all kind of underneath there. Now we're just gonna go along and make sure all this carpet is kind of put back down. Gonna tap this back down. So the biggest benefit of doing it so the planks are laying like long ways like this is that I'm gonna come up with trim and put a quarter round right here, and then that will hold all these planks down so there's no chance of them coming up, because it is a floating floor. That is all the plank laying we're gonna do here. Now I just gotta get some trim, start trimming this out and caulking it up. This area is done except for caulking. Today we're just gonna finish up this job, filling in all the nail holes and places where the trim didn't meet up perfectly. We're gonna start off by checking and making sure all of our nails are below surface. Any of them that aren't, we're gonna just tap in a little bit. We're just checking the whole area so that when we start caulking, we don't run into any issues. Alright, this area is good. A lot of this will be using your fingers to fill these in. So if you're interested in seeing how I do the whole other section over there, which included a sunroom, a kitchen area, a small closet, and then into a laundry room, stay tuned. It's at the end of this video.